coming in hot with another Form Check Friday. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to Form Check Friday. I'm Paul. Clint is sleeping under my desk. I'm sure he'll make an appearance. Thank you for joining me again this week. And as always, thank you to everybody who posted in the submissions thread. Quick little bit of housekeeping. Radically Simple Muscle, my new ebook, is coming out officially, I hope, on Sunday. If you're on my mailing list, you will get a notification. If you follow me on social media, if you're on this Reddit thread or our subreddit group, you'll definitely know about it. This is a hypertrophy focused training program. It's sort of the program that didn't make it into Radically Simple Strength, my first book. So I think you're going to like it, and there'll be a lot more news and information about it as it comes out. So stay tuned for that. I'm just finishing up a program breakdown video explaining the ins and outs of the program, kind of like what I did for Radically Simple Strength for the novice program. This one's a lot longer. I'm trying to cut it down and make it manageable. I'm going to do that as soon as I finish doing Form Check Friday. And you will, like I said, if you follow me anywhere, you'll find out about it, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys. So let's dive right into the form checks and see what problems we need to solve, what issues you guys are having. As you know, I have not seen any of these, so we are going through it together for the first time. All right, here we go. How do I get this thing to move? There we go. Okay. Paul, back for more squat advice. I hurt my lower back a couple times squatting, and I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong. Was I lucky? Was I lucky enough that it happened on video this time? I felt it on the third rep, but maybe a little on the second too. I'd love to get your feedback on how to fix this so I can stop messing up my training. Thanks. Okay, Neil, before I look at the video, sometimes, actually more often than not, it's not something you can see. Like I might see you twitch a little bit, like when on the third rep when it happens, but I have seen plenty of clients do an absolutely perfect squat or deadlift and still tweak their back. So don't get your hopes up that I'm going to go, this is exactly what the problem is. Back tweaks happen. They happen to all of us eventually. Some people get back tweaks a lot more frequently than others, and it's very frustrating, I know, but clients often, as soon as they tweak their back and they rack the bar, they look at me as the coach and they go, what was it? Tell me what happened. And as I said, more often than not, I have no idea. So sometimes there's just something in there ready to go. Sometimes, and this is going to sound really strange, but sometimes nothing is wrong with your back. It just hurts. You have to keep in mind, pain is very weird. So pain can be an indicator of tissue damage. If you put your hand over an open flame, that's supposed to hurt to warn you or to get you to take your hand off of the flame. However, pain can also be a warning. So your brain thinks that something's wrong and it's trying to get you to protect the area. So it makes it hurt. 100% of pain originates in the brain, and it feels very real. It is real, but it doesn't always mean that something is wrong. Sometimes it's a misfire. Sometimes it's your brain, like I said, is thinking that you're about to hurt yourself, and it's trying to get you to stop doing what you're doing, so it makes your back hurt. And it feels like you pulled something, you snapped something popped. And sometimes that is tearing some muscle fibers. It can be a disc issue. It can be all sorts of things. But many times it's actually nothing, and it's your brain preventatively trying to get you to stop doing what you're doing. So I know it, like I said, it's very real. It feels very real when it happens. But we treat it the same way, which is we keep lifting, because if it's something that, if it's tissue damage, we need to work the area. We need to get blood in there. We need to let the tissue re-architect itself in the range of motion that it's going to be used. So if you actually have a back tweak and you take a bunch of time off and you tore something, or if you tear a hamstring, and you just rest it for a couple weeks and don't work the area, that tissue will scar. You'll have a lump of scar tissue there, which is definitely going to tear again. It's a little bit counterintuitive because it hurts so much, but if you get back in and start working the area frequently, then that tissue is forced to reconstruct itself within the normal range of motion that it will be using in your lifting. So if it's a real tear, we have to work it. If it's a psychological issue, if it's a brain misfire, and again, they feel the same, although the tear will have some bruising, but you don't usually see bruising in backs. But if it's, if everything's fine, but your brain is sending this pain signal, this warning signal for some reason, working it, consistently training through it conservatively, we always let the pain be the guide, will send a message to your brain that, hey, look, I'm okay. Like, you can let this go. You can stop making my back hurt because, as you can see from the fact that I'm continuing to lift, I'm fine. And then it will go away much faster. So if you think about, just to go back to the pain concept, what they call the biopsychosocial model of pain, traditionally the mechanical model, which is the older model of pain science, was, you hurt tissue, you burn your hand, it sends signals, the nerves send signals up to your brain goes, you're burning your hand, and it makes your hand hurt. It was like a one-way feedback thing, and then back to the hand to get you to pull your hand off. The biopsychosocial model of pain, which is a very elaborate name for it, but it's the more commonly accepted understanding is, yes, it can be tissue damage, but it can also be emotional stress. It can be previous history. If you were, if you'd hurt your back before doing something, you're more likely to do it. It can be something else happening in your life. I've asked a lot of clients who had back tweaks, what's going on outside the gym. And almost always when they tweak their back, they're going through divorce. They're, they lost their job. They're breaking up with their girlfriend. Something stressful outside of the gym is happening. They're dealing with that stress, and it's manifesting in a physical pain in the back. If you think about someone who has, an accident or something like that, or an injury and hurts their back, I'm sure people like this. They have, maybe they were 20 years old when they got in a car accident and hurt their back, and they continue to have chronic back pain into their 60s, right? Well, all of that tissue, whatever got damaged, has healed up within 6 months to a year. So the tissue isn't damaged anymore, but the pain signal is still there for some reason. And so staying active, moving, continuing to train to the best of your ability is how we handle this. And it's the only way that you're going to get rid of it. So that was a long explanation before we even looked at your video, but I just want to clarify that you're not broken, there's nothing wrong, and it's very common. So catastrophizing your situation only makes it worse, okay? So now let's look at your form and see if there's anything noticeable here, and we'll go from there. So let me kill your volume, and we'll watch a couple reps, take a look at it, and then see what's going on. Okay. Okay, so this is rep 3. This is where it happens. Okay, you didn't even, you were just right. Okay. All right, so we'll go back, and there are some things that you definitely need to fix with your squat. So first of all, if you are someone who has chronic back pain or frequent back injuries, you should always be wearing your belt. Now, I'm not saying that's going to prevent you from tweaking your back, but it does add a layer of support and compression. It helps you keep things tighter. It helps your abs squeeze harder, which then lets you, that tension goes around, like if you think about like a whiskey barrel, right? That hoop tension that it's pushing out, and that tension is going from basically your abs all the way around your body, and it allows you to stabilize your low back better. So a lot of people think a belt is for their back. It's actually for your abs because it gives them something to contract against, and that contraction helps stabilize your back. So if you're a back tweak guy, wear your belt. put it on. I mean, wear it all the time. You know, maybe do your first 1 or 2 warm-ups without it, but then throw it on and make sure that you're using it, because it definitely isn't going to hurt, and it may help prevent, it'll definitely help you stay tighter, and it may help prevent these tweaks. It'll also make you feel more confident because you'll feel a lot more stable. So that's number 1. Okay, now we're going to get in and watch your form. So your stance looks good. I think it might be a little wide, but I hesitate to say that because I know that you're going too deep here. So one of the things you notice right here is that your back, your upper back is kind of rounded like this, right? You have this curve here. And what that means is you're not puffing your chest up and setting the back into more of a extension position. Okay. So from here, before you lift, and I'm going to make sure you don't do it. So you didn't do it. So here's what I want. Before you go down, when you're in this position, and I want you to actually do this as you take it out, right? So when you're getting under the bar, when you haven't taken it out of the rack yet, see here, we still have this curve. So you haven't set your back yet. Okay, so what I want you to do from right here is, as you get under the bar and your back is rounded like this, I want you to take a breath without unracking it, right? And pretend you're getting ready to squat. So you're going to take a big breath and then arch up, right? So I'm here, my back's round. I'm going to arch up like that. Chest up, right? Elbows kind of tucked, puffing my chest up, head down. Right now I have this set, tight, arched upper back. Then in that position, from there, since you haven't, it's a lot easier to do that when you don't have weight on your back. So do it before you take the bar out of the rack. Then once you're tight and puffed up, stand up, take 2 steps back, and try not to let that go as you walk it out and round it. Okay, now when you do your first rep and you come back up to the top, there's a good chance that you're going to be in this rounded position again. So before each rep, in addition to as you take it out of the rack, so right here, once you set your stance, right, and you're getting ready to squat, and this is for every rep, before you go, you're going to take a big breath again and puff that chest up, right? Lift, as my coach would say, show me your tits. Lift your chest up. You want to keep the elbows kind of tucked down here and the chest up, and almost like you're trying to touch your elbows together in the back so that you can make that nice shelf for the bar. So before every rep, big breath. Okay, think about it like setting your back in a deadlift. You don't want to pull the bar off the ground with a round back, right? Because it's just going to round more. So before you pull a deadlift, you take a breath and you squeeze your chest up and you set your back in this nice extension. And that's what helps to keep the back tight and locked and straight so that the discs of the spine aren't wiggling around under load. You're missing that piece. So you're never setting your back. And then as you go down and start to push back up, the discs of your spine are going to start to round more because they have to. You didn't set it, right? Just like a deadlift. If your back is loose and then you pull the weight off the ground, your back's going to start to round more on the way up, right? And so that motion, anytime the discs of your spine are moving under load, you're introducing the possibility for injury. And it's just really inefficient, right? Because we want the segment from your head to your hip to be like a steel pole, because that's the force that you're generating with the muscles of your hips and legs goes up to your back and then shoots up your back and then to the bar, or in the deadlift down your arms to the bar. But this segment needs to be rigid. So you get a very efficient transfer of force and you're not wiggling around and possibly hurting your back. Okay, so that's from the top down. That's the big part here is wear your belt, get your chest up real tight, and reset the chest up every rep before you go down so that you're keeping everything locked and tight and you don't have this motion in your back. Okay, now we got to deal with your actual squat here. So let's watch it. Okay, so this is way too deep, right? We're going all the way down here. So you need to cut that off higher. Okay, now I thought your stance might be wide, but the fact that you can go that low tells me that the muscles of your groin on the inside, the other side of this line, your adductors, you're pretty flexible. which means you can go this deep and they're not even fully stretched. And that's why you're getting down. Also, because you've got this round low back here, your lumbar spine can easily go into flexion as you try to get lower than you need to, right? If you did what I said earlier and set your back in extension, right, so that your pelvis is sort of tilting that way, okay? So you're rather than having, so this is your pelvis here, right? Rather than having it curving down here like this, you're trying to actually curve it up. I'm gonna let that line disappear. You're trying to curve it up like this, okay? And when you do that, that will take the origin point of the hamstring here, and it will move it sort of back to here, right? Because you're tilting your butt back, and that will stretch things out. So that'll stretch out the rubber bands, which are the muscles of your legs, right? Your adductors and your hamstrings. They will stretch more higher up. So the fact that you can get this deep is partially because maybe you're just a flexible guy, but also because going back to the first thing is you're not getting that arch. Okay, so if you set your back the way I want you to, and make sure that your knees are jacked out as hard as you can on both sides, like out, completely out, wide. It should bring the bottom up to something more like this, okay? You're kind of down here, right? And we want you to just, this is your hip, we want you to like just break parallel. So if you think about your thigh, right? If I put a marble right here on your thigh at the bottom of the squat, I want it to roll this way, which it will here because you're going way too deep. But I just need it to slightly roll, right? I don't need this, right? And trying to get that low when you don't need to, usually the knees have to cave in or the lumbar spine has to round. And all of those things can affect or can make it more likely that you're gonna tweak your back. Now, if your knees are jacked out as hard as you can, okay, like, and perfectly in line with the toe, right? So it's not like the toes here and the knees here. Knees and toes are in a perfectly straight line, and they're jacked out as hard as you can. And you've got that arch in your back at the bottom, and you're still going this deep before you feel any stretch, any bounce, any rebound at the bottom, because this is where you should feel that stretch reflex, then you may need to widen your stance a little bit. Okay, because if you take your feet out a little wider, that will stretch out those adductor muscles higher up into the rep. And to illustrate this point, just think about trying to do a squat where you put your feet as wide as possible. Like, how far could you go down? You'd only be able to move about 2 inches before your groin tightens up, right? If you put your heels together like this, you can drop your ass all the way to your heels and those groin muscles will never tighten up. So the stance for most people is about shoulder width. Heels line up right under the shoulders, and then you turn your toes out about 35, 40 degrees like that. Most people, that will put the limit of their ability to go down with knees shoved out about an inch below parallel. If that's in some cases with really flexible guys, thin guys like you, we have to widen the stance just a little bit to bring the bottom up higher, okay? But that's the key to getting that stretch reflex. And let's see if we're getting a bounce here at all. Okay, so the other thing here is before you get to that third rep where you tweak your back, you're just dropping into the bottom, right? You're falling very quickly on the descent, right? So if we watch the speed that you're going down, it's very fast, okay? And so what that means is you're getting loose, because in order for you to drop that quickly into the bottom of the squat, you have to loosen up your muscles to fall like that. And then once they're loose, you can't tighten them back up again, okay? So you have to think about slow and controlled on the way down, fast on the way up. Slow and controlled descent, everything's super tight. You're not dropping to the bottom, you're stretching into the bottom, right? As your hips go back and your knees go forward, right? You're pulling back on a rubber band, like a slingshot. Okay, that's not a fast thing. That's a gradual stretch. And then when you get to the bottom, then you explode up. So you control it, you stretch under control into the bottom, and then you get that little stretch reflex, and then you fire it up. So slow and controlled on the way down, keep everything tight, keep that back arch, keep the knees out, control it, and then fire it up. Okay, fast on the way up. Let me see if I can find one of my favorite squat videos. Yeah, so here's my man Josh, I bring this up all the time. He's one of the starting strength coaches, but he's got a great squat. But look at how slowly he takes the bar down, right? He set his upper back, and now he's controlling it, and then boom, he's going to drive it up. But he's going to puff his chest up. You see that? And then look at this. Let me see if I can pause it here, just to reiterate my point. So look at his back when he's at the bottom. Okay, you see that? This tight upper back here, this arch, that's what we want, right? He set it at the top and he still has it here. Okay, you at the bottom look like this. Okay, so that's what we're after. Slow controlled descent and then speed. I mean, he's got what, 425, 410, 415 on the bar. So that ascent isn't going to be that fast, but he's trying to go fast, but he's controlling the descent. Everything's tight, and then he's firing it up to go back up. But the back stays tight and arched the whole time. Okay? And he's got that nice little rebound. You're falling into the bottom, which means you're loosening up. And again, loose means things are going to move around. Things in your back are going to wiggle around, which can lead to that injury. Okay? So let me just watch. So you're going deeper than you need to go, which puts your back in a, you can see your lumbar spine kind of rounding in order to hit that depth. Okay, so let's just sum this all up. These are the things I need you to work on. Setting your back in extension, your upper back in extension before you take it out of the rack, wearing your belt, and then resetting that upper back extension before each rep, making sure that when you're at the bottom, you're tight and arched, knees are out, right? You haven't let your lumbar spine round, and then controlling the descent, getting that little bounce, and then speeding up the ascent. So one of the things that's going to work well for you is to try working on some pause squats with light weight. Okay, so empty bar and maybe 95 pounds. And I have now recently put up a video on HORNSTRENGTH.com, my website /videos. I've got all my assistance exercises in here now. And we can look at, for the pause squat, I'll just pull this up and show you what I mean. So what you're going to do here is take the bar out of the rack, and then you're going to set your back. You're going to go down to the bottom, and you're going to pause and count to 3 and then come back up, right? So you down there, back is tight, and then you drive up. Same deal, okay? And what you're looking for when you're down here counting to 3 is you're asking yourself, am I balanced over the midfoot? Are my knees shoved out as hard as they can? And is my back tight, or did I round it? And if you have any of those problems, you fix them and you feel it in the pause position, and then you come back up. And then the next rep, it's a game. You're trying to go down to the bottom and not have to shift around at all, not have to shove your knees out, not have to shift your weight on your foot, not have to re-arch your back because you're just down there in the bottom position, perfect, tight, and stable for 3 seconds. It's like boring because you don't have to fix anything, and then you come back up. And so add those in as part of your warm-up. Do 1 or 2 sets with the empty bar, and just make sure that you know that you're able to be down there with light weight and maintain a perfect, tight, arched upper back and bottom position in the squat. And then as you start going through your regular warm-ups, you go back to eliminating the pause. Okay? So I hope that helps. Work on all of those things and post another video, and we'll see if things get better. Keep training with the back tweak. Let pain be the guide. Go in on your normal schedule. Start warming up. Make sure you wear your belt from the first warm-up. If it feels okay, keep going. If it hurts as you're increasing the weight, getting closer to your work set, just cut it. It's not ready. But if the pain subsides as you go through your warm-ups, train as you normally would, and it will go away. Obviously, that wasn't a devastating back tweak. You didn't fall. I didn't even see you twitch at all. So you're probably going to be okay, but just keep going. All right. Hope this helps. Thanks for the submission, and I'll look forward to the next one. Good luck, man. Okay, let's move on. Sorry for the bad video quality and angle. This is my first post. I'm a little dude, 5'4", 158 pounds. I feel like my depth is sketchy despite being smaller with shorter legs. While I haven't encountered any specific issues besides depth, I'm open to any feedback or advice you might have. I appreciate all the help you provide. Here's a link to my video. Okay, let's take a look and see what we're doing. Let's get me over here and we'll watch a couple of these, Brandon, and see what we have. Oh, okay. Nice rep. Little depth looks fine. Nice control on the way down. That one was a little high. But you're getting tight before each one. Depth looked pretty good on that one. Let's see what we got. Yeah. Okay. These are good, man. So just a couple things to a few tweaks here, but this will be a short form check. Stance looks good. You're taking the time to set your upper back. If you watch the form check I just did, he was doing all the things that you're doing, all the things that I told him to do, which is taking time to reset between reps, get the chest up, slow and controlled descent, then a fast ascent. So you're nailing all that. There's just a few. There's something with your knees and with your hip drive. Depth, I think I'm just going to pause one because I really think you're nailing the depth here. Yeah, I mean, that's perfect depth. There's nothing wrong with that. I think you have one where you cut it off a little short, but that's good. What I can't see here really is that one was the short one, is your knee slide. But what it looks to me, and this kind of ties into your issue with depth, is that you might not be getting your knees set far enough forward on the way down. Okay, so a couple things here. On the first rep, I want you to watch your chest, okay? So what I'm looking for when you get to the bottom is I want to see your hips bounce. I want to see that stretch reflex, and then I want to see you drive your butt up, okay? So your hips are going to go down, your butt's going to pop up out of the bottom an inch or two. Shows me you initiated the drive here, okay? And then this angle that you set by about the halfway point on the way down, after that little hip bounce, this angle locks back in and you carry this back angle all the way up to the top where you leaned over in the first place or started leaning over. So near the top, and then you're gonna lift your chest. If on the way up, if on the ascent, you start to lift your chest early before you get high enough, you kill the hip drive. Because once you start lifting your chest up, you stop driving your hips. And this is where all the power is, back here. So watch your first rep, and what you're gonna see is as you come up out of the bottom, like an inch or two, you're gonna start standing up. You're gonna start opening up your hips and just raising your chest, okay? I think it's the first one here. Down, and then, yeah, you see your back, you start to stand up a little too early. That one was a little better. Yeah, maybe it might just be the first rep here. Because it looks like you're hanging onto that back angle pretty well. So that was just a funky first rep. Happens. First reps are always a little weird. You're trying to get back into the groove. But let me just watch how much hip drive you've got. Yeah, so I would like to see a little bit more exaggerated. Let's see if I can get it. So right out of the bottom here, I would like you I'm kind of nitpicking here because you overall have a very good squat, but I would like to see a little bit more of this come up first, right? The butt, your low back. I want that. I should see that pop up. I'm seeing a little bit, like I can tell you're driving your butt up, but I'd like you to try and exaggerate it a little more, because after that bounce, when you go down and you get that stretch reflex, and then and then it starts to naturally kind of pop up, you want to drive under that. It's kind of going weightless a little bit, right? It's getting easier while you stretch off while you bounce off the stretched out adductors and hamstrings, right? So you want to catch that bounce and really drive under it so that you have this momentum carrying you through the middle part of the squat, which is where you're going to get stuck. So you want to into that sticking point with a lot of speed. And that all starts right out of the bottom. You catch the bounce and then you drive your ass up real hard. Now, don't drive your butt up and drop your shoulders, right? Because you'll dump the bar over your head. Keep the chest up, but focus on really pushing here and making that a little bit more aggressive. And it'll feel easier. Like you'll get higher up into the rep before it starts to feel heavy again. Okay? You're doing well. It's just the hip drive's a little subtle. So I'd like to see a little bit more pop there. Make sure you maintain that back angle. You're doing a pretty good job of that. That first rep, we're just going to forget what I said because I think you just had a wonky first rep. But be aware or conscious of the fact that sometimes you lift your chest too soon and that kills your hip drive. The main thing though, I think that'll help a lot, especially with the depth issue, is getting your knees set a little sooner. So as you start the squat, and I know this is your first time, so you might not have heard this stuff, but as you start the squat, two things happen, right? Well, a couple things happen. You lean over, you shove your knees out, okay? When you do that, your hips go back. Everybody knows that. Everybody who's squatting thinks about sitting back into the bottom, reaching back with the hips, okay? What they tend to forget is that yes, the hips go back, but the knees also go forward, right? So it's not just knees stay here and you sit back. It's knees go forward, hips go back, and that allows you to maintain that balance over the middle of your foot, right? So it's this, okay? And so a lot of people neglect the fact that the first thing you do when you lean over is not only shove your knees out, shove them forward and out. So when you get to the bottom of the squat, your knees will be in a certain position. Okay, so for you to balance, and I can't see because you got this upright in the way, but your knee, the end of your knee is probably right about here. Okay, so you want to make sure that wherever this is at the bottom, wherever your kneecap is relative to your toe, you set it there forward as soon as you can. So from the top, you want to lean over and shove your knees out, but also forward to that point they're going to end up at in the bottom. Okay, because then they're there, right? If it needs to go here, right, and you're standing straight up, shove it there as fast as you can so that by the halfway point, the knees are set. And then you start to think about reaching back with the hips. So it's knees forward and out first, and then hips back and down. And it looks to me like you might not be getting your knees far enough forward soon enough. And what happens if you don't do that is that they will slide forward as you reach the bottom. They have to, or you're going to fall. That's the balanced position. And if you don't put the knee where it needs to be at the bottom, as you get deeper and deeper, it's going to slide into that position and it's going to pull you forward. And so instead of stretching back with the hips into the bottom and getting that stretch reflex, like reaching back, you're actually being pulled forward a little bit. It still feels like you're getting deeper, but you're not actually, you're going to struggle to hit depth because your hip crease isn't dropping down. You're just kind of collapsing this way, if that makes sense, right? Because as the knee pulls you forward. I don't think yours is excessive. I think it might be just a little bit, but I have a video on my YouTube channel, and let me see if I can pull it up for you real quick. I think it's called Let's Get to the Bottom of Your Squat on YouTube. Yeah, so let me pause this. So here I am from many years ago. But if you go to my YouTube channel on Horn Strength and watch this video, Let's Get to the Bottom of Your Squat, I talk all about the knees and the hips and what they're supposed to be doing as you reach the bottom, right? I talk about the scissor lift, you'll see that analogy, and then using the pipe to get your knee forward, set it forward over the toe, and then sit back, right? So watch that video and just be more aware of knees further forward faster. There's some alliteration for you. Further forward faster right away. Set it, and then once it's fixed, you can spend the rest of the time reaching back and you'll hit depth no problem that way. Okay? So that's my guess as to why you might sometimes struggle with depth. You're real close, and on most of these you're hitting it. So just to recap, everything looks good. Lean over right away, get the knees forward a little bit more and out, and then so by the halfway point, Knees are set, and all you have to do is reach back into the bottom, take it down, get that bounce, and then aggressively drive up your low back, right? Just put a little bit more pop into it. Stay leaned over as long as you can on the way up, and then stand up at the top, and you'll be good to go, man. Overall, very good. You should, I mean, with your, by the way, you're talking about being short and 5'4", 158. You're built for powerlifting, man. So some of the best power lifters in the world were short dudes. So you've got the technique, you've got the structure for it. So you should be crushing 405 at some point, but I want to see 315 within the next, 6 months. I mean, easily. Because I think you're a good candidate for getting real strong. So work on that stuff. Feel free to post another one, throw up a deadlift. Maybe we'll take a look at that and we'll keep going. Thanks, man. All right. Dick. Okay, Dick had a homework assignment. So we've been working on Dick squat for a bit. Just completed the homework task you sent me last week for Form Check Friday. I was waiting for my squat day to come around. Here are pause squats at 60 kilograms as suggested. They're part of my warm-up on heavy squat day. See what you think. I can feel the difference in my confidence level to lean over straight away being higher when the weight is lighter. Conversely, the heavier it is, the more nervous I feel about toppling over and hurting my back. Well, obviously. Okay, so I'm practicing at lightweight. So we've been working on Dick squats for a bit, and I assigned him homework last time of doing pause squats and bounce pause squats with very light weight because we need to dial in the bottom position. So let's take a look and see how Dick did this week. All right. Okay, that's your balanced bottom position. Little weird getting down there. Let's see if you clean it up. Much better. There we go. Look at that. Okay. Lean over right away. Get those knees forward. Yeah, so you notice you're still having to rock back a little bit. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Let's do it again. Oh. I don't know what that. Okay, you just did like an extra one. You just did one. Now let's see what happens here when you do that. Yeah, you see, so there's a disconnect here because aside from the first rep, getting into position was a little bit weird, but that was the point of, that's how pause squats go. The first one, you're going to find all these errors. Like, oh, that didn't feel quite right. And then as you go through the set, you should be able to go down there and not have to adjust anything. That's exactly why we do this exercise. And that's exactly what happened for you. The first rep was a little iffy getting down there. But then they just locked in. And notice how when you're coming up, your hips aren't shooting back, right? Boom, just straight up, right? That's exactly what we want. So now you kind of screwed up, man, because now I know you can do it, right? So there's something that's happening. I mean, your hips move back just like a normal amount. These are perfect. But you notice on that one where you stop thinking about that pause position and feeling the bottom correctly, and you just switch to worrying about coming back up, the scoop comes right back. Okay? So I'm actually glad you threw in this rep where you just did a normal one, because it gives us something to contrast these two with. So let's see if I went back far enough. Beautiful squat right there. Boom, straight up. And then we get the scoop. And I want to look at your knees again on that one. So okay, let me see if I can articulate what I think is happening. Notice how your head moves down further too on that weird one, that last one. Oh, no, it did it a little bit on that one. So maybe that's not it. Just trying to find all the pieces here that might contribute. Okay, so, it's another weird little tick that you have. Notice where you're looking at the bottom, okay? I mean, you're looking, almost back here, which I know I told you to do, but we may need to adjust that. But as you come up, your head actually goes from looking here to like scooping back to looking like back here. So if you watch, just keep an eye on your head here and watch these. Because listen, head position is really important. And when the head starts moving around, weird things happen. So watch your head as you start to push up. It dips a little bit on that one, a lot on the last one. So here, and then you kind of get a little nod. But let's watch this last one. Watch your head. Oh, no, wait, that wasn't the last one. Okay, even on that one, it just like, it almost went like you're looking down to looking behind you. And that one for sure. Let's see if I can do that again. See your head kind of scoop underneath you? Okay, so what I think we need to do here, and this may not fix everything, but we do need to move your eyes a little bit. So let's see if we can get you to look, like maybe right here, okay? And I know I'm giving you different advice than I gave you before, but I think something's going on here with your eye gaze direction, because when your head goes down like that, you're necessarily going to get this like rotation, because you're almost like if we took this to an extreme, and we just kept going, your head is going to end up like back here and we're in a circle, right? So your head is actually part of the circular motion because you're almost diving back underneath your butt and coming around. So let's get rid of this angle right here and let's make it more like this. Okay, so I think this white piece of paper here is a good idea. The point of looking straight down was to watch your knees because you were having issues with your knees caving in. I think by now, especially with the pause squats, you'll hopefully have an understanding of where the knees should be or what it should feel like to have them jacked out. So let's move your gaze back to about where this white paper is and see if we can get this neck from this, right, looking like behind your heels, to more neutral. Still looking down, but just a more neutral head position. And then make sure that you're not dropping your head, okay? Because that's definitely, just by its nature, is going to make this thing circular. So that's step one. Look here, keep your head more in line with your torso, okay? And then do not move your head at all. Let me see what your head looks like when you start. Let's go back here. Yeah, so you're here. I know your eyes are maybe like here, but if you just move your gaze to that white paper there, that was a weird line, and you keep this angle right here of your head the entire time. So from here, if this is your head, it's not doing this. It's fixed here, and we're just leaning over, taking it down, and then coming back up. Okay, because the exaggerated head motion caused an exaggerated circular pattern with the hips. So that might actually be the culprit. But let's watch a couple more of these again because I just want to. But the hip drive, the motion of this when you actually focus on that pause and just push your butt up is like, it's perfect. These are perfect. All right, let's see. We'll just watch the whole set. Yeah. And I believe the chest drops more too on that last one. Let's see if I can pause it. So your chest, your angle here is like this. And I just want to keep an eye on this area right here and see if it drops down more. It obviously will. We know it's going to because you're getting that scoop motion. But I want to see the difference between this one and... So we're going to watch the last two. Or maybe this is three. Pause. Chest is... Yeah, you're actually keeping your chest up here. And on that one, it dropped a little bit more along with the head. Okay, So, very good job on these. You are capable of squatting perfectly. We know that. So let's fix the head position so that it's neutral with the spine and fixed, and it's not dipping as you start to drive your butt up. Drive your ass up. Don't drive. So let me draw this for you. When you're in this position down here, drive this up and this up, right? Both of these segments, the back is supposed to move up like this with a tiny bit of motion here first at the hips, which just indicates that you started the drive here. It's like 2 or 3 inches, right out of the bottom, straight up, not back. Okay. That shows me you initiated the drive up down here and not by lifting your chest up like that. Okay. But the deal is you push this up and you keep this up. Okay. You don't push this up and drop this, because then what happens? You go back in a circle. And if you drop your head and your chest and you push your butt up, that's where this is coming from. So on these pause squats, the reason that the ones where you're pausing look good is because, yes, you are initiating the drive up at the hips, but you are not letting the chest drop at all. So we see a little change here just because you started it here, but this catches up immediately. It's just like boom, boom. So little thing and then everything together, as opposed to this goes up and this goes down. Okay. So long-winded way of saying, keep your chest up. Yes, drive your hips. Don't lift the chest, but don't drop it. Don't let it drop at all. Okay. Just push here, keep this angle the entire way, and you will go straight up, just like you're doing in these reps. All right. Fix the head, keep the chest up, drive the hips straight up. Great. So let's go from here and let's start working up with heavier weight. And you just have to pay attention to, now that the point of the pause squats is to know what the bottom position feels like. Okay. And you should be able to feel it by now. Like you said, you feel more confident down there. So you're looking to feel that for a split second on every rep, even the ones that you're doing normal speed. You're trying to find that precise bottom position that you've been practicing and then come back up, right? You're just looking for it. Once you feel it, you come right back up. That's the whole game with the squat. It's not like a different sensation. It's that feeling. And then it's like how you know when you hit depth. Like I just know what it feels like to be at depth. And I just keep going down until I feel it and then I come back up, right? So work on that. Start going up in weight. Pretend that you're doing a pause squat with no pause. Just treat every rep like my goal is to hit the perfect balanced bottom position, except I'm not going to pause. I'm just going to come right back up. And once you internalize that sensation, we should be good to go. And I think fixing the head position so that we're not tucking under your butt is part of the deal there. Hips up, chest up. That's the deal. All right. Very good work, man. I'm optimistic here. These were the best squats I've ever seen you do. I don't care that they're light. They're perfect. So let's work on what you should do now, I think, especially with the empty bar, and maybe like 25 pounds on each side, is maybe do a set of 5 paused and then do a set of 5 normal speed. Right? So same set, just 5 perfect pause, remind yourself of the position, and then 5 normal speed, trying to do a pause squat with no pause. Same sensation, just no pause. Okay? Awesome, man. Good work. I'm sure I'll see you next week. I want to see you next week. I want to see Dick squat 315 with perfect form. That's my goal here. That's my mission now. All right, brother. Good luck. See you soon. I think we got one more. Okay. We got another follow-up from last week. Here are my squats. Didn't manage to change much with the camera angle, as very restricted size by the garage. Yeah, he has a fisheye lens on his camera, or a wide angle lens, so everything was distorting. I'm about 10 sets deep here, hence 3 reps. So many attempts gone wrong. Okay. Working on your advice from last week and trying to set the back when unracking, keep it set, finding it incredibly difficult to tell if I've done this or not with both with and without the camera. Hard to tell if I'm doing this well or not. Okay, working on not setting the back during the ascent, yes, or during the descent. So either keeping it set from unracking or setting before starting each rep, keeping the head down, staying in the hips for longer, and not immediately lifting the chest after the hip drive. Good, nice list. Let's watch our last guy. Okay, yeah, you got that. And you're at an angle. So you're okay. So let's see what we got here. So what I was pointing out previously was that I thought his stance was too wide, but after further inspection of the dimensions of the rack, it's clear that there's a distortion from the lens, which makes his feet look like they're too close together. I mean, look at how narrow it looks between the rack. So I'm assuming this is a normal size rack. So it's obviously the camera. Anyway, we will do our best. All right, let me go back. I was talking over that, so I want to see you take it out. Good. But. Okay, here, this is good, right? You're setting your upper back tight, but your head the angle here is like that. You're like this, okay? So I don't want this. I want this. I want neutral, okay? So all you have to, this is almost perfect, but you gotta, your head here has to be more like this, okay? So I'm gonna draw the line over here because I don't want to, you gotta be able to see it. But this is where I want your head, and right now your head looks like that. Okay, so just tilt your head down, look at the floor, tuck your chin a little bit. That's the deal. Okay, let's move on. That's an easy fix. Just look at the damn floor. All right. So now you took it out and you got what are we doing with the head here? Okay, your knees are bent. So we got to make sure that your lockout position, your knees are completely locked. That's how you're stable. If the knees are soft, you're burning out the muscles of your legs. You don't want to do that. And let's see how your squat goes. Good. Okay. Okay, let me just watch a couple of these and get a feel for it. Good depth on that one. Okay. So you're obviously tired from doing 10 sets trying to get this right for me, which I appreciate. All right, first of all, these are better, right? You've fixed the problem that we were having last time where you were setting your back on the way down. Instead of putting your back in extension and then starting the squat, you were starting the squat and then on your way down trying to set your back, which is impossible to do. I mean, it's very hard to do, and it introduces a lot of extra movement. It means your back wasn't tight, your spine wasn't set, locked, stable. So you had a power leak, you're flexing and extending under load. So in this case, you're doing it beforehand and then you're starting the squat. So that's excellent, great work. Now we have to figure out, now we got to fine tune it a little bit. So again, you're gonna fix the knees, make sure knees are completely locked in between reps so you can rest, so you can recompose yourself without tiring out your legs. Mainly the issue here is your head. You're still always kind of, turn my hat around, you're always kind of like this. Even if your chest is up and you're leaned over, you still kind of look like this, okay? And it just needs to be neutral. So just move your eye gaze down to like right in between your feet and like a couple inches in front of your toes, maybe like 2-3 inches in front of your toes, almost looking straight down. Most of the time when I squat, I look almost straight down, and that automatically is going to pull your head down because you can't see that if you're like this. You have to look like this, right? If I'm right now, I'm looking at my toes. I'm looking right in between my big toe, right on each foot. I can't see it from here. I have to be here to see it. And this is the neutral spine, neutral cervical spine angle that I want. Okay, so just again, move your eye gaze like basically the tips of your shoes right in the middle. That's where you're gonna look, okay? And keep the chin kind of tucked in. Now, again, so soft knees, see, look, you haven't even started and your knees are bent. Okay, now we're going up. Now your speed is good. The cadence of your descent is pretty good. Your head, little shallow, let me see. Was that shallow? Oh. No, it looks like you hit depth here, but let's look at the knees. So, okay, see, okay, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to see if I can draw some lines for you. Okay, so I missed it. Shit. Okay. So notice your knee here, right? That angle. We're looking at where your thighs are. Okay, so I'm going to see if I'm going to go back a little bit just to make my point here because I think it'll be better. All right. All right. You're pretty much halfway down here, but look at where your knee is compared to this safety pin. It's like right at the edge of that safety pin. Okay, I'm looking at this thing, and your knee is essentially right underneath that. That's how out it is. Now I'm going to pause it when you get to the bottom, and we're going to compare where this knee is relative to this post. Okay, and I have a feeling it's going to have come in quite a bit. Yeah, okay. So now we're at the bottom, and your knee is here. Whereas before, it was like here. So it was a little bit further out. There's a gap here between, I mean, I'm doing my best with these shitty lines, but your knee has moved in this way. And I'm assuming it happened on the other one too. So your knees went from really nice and out to they collapsed in as you hit depth. You've got to fight that with, and you can see here, your toe is pointed this way and your knee is kind of pointing forward, right? So these lines right here of your feet and your leg, they should be parallel, okay? And that, but yours, when your thing moves in and your toe's still pointed out, you're kind of like this, and I want this. I want your toe and your knee cap perfectly lined up over each other, not like this, okay? So knees are caving in, right? And that's gonna kill your stretch reflex because the knees out is what stretches out those adductor muscles. If you slack the knees in, those adductors slack, and then you're not gonna get a very pronounced bounce, okay? So knees out harder at the bottom. All right, now I know it's easier said than done, but you can see that if you like, just keep an eye on your knees. We'll just watch a couple reps and just watch your knees go in, boop, every time. Okay. Head down. All right, so overall, now there is a possibility here, and I'm just going to cover my ass and contradict everything I just said. This camera angle is throwing me off, man. So there is a possibility that you are actually pushing your knees out beyond your toe. I don't know that that's the case because is it slide? No, never mind. Okay, so on the way up, you can see the knees going that way, but the toe still pointed out this way. It's kind of subtle with these lines, but this needs to be out more the entire time, okay? So push your knees out harder, and think about it this way. Knees are widest at the bottom. Right now, your knees are widest at the halfway point, and then they come in at the bottom. That's not what we want. Knees should be at their maximum width at the bottom because that's where we need everything tight to get that bounce. So you just have to focus. And one of the things that will help you with this, circling back to your gaze, is to move your eyes right between the toes. Like I told you, right here, okay? Because you can see your knees out of your peripheral vision as you go down. If you're looking at the wall, you don't know what your knees are doing. But if you stare straight down, you'll see your knees cave in out of your peripheral vision. You'll see them cave in. If you see that, you shove them back out. You just use your brain and make them go back out. So they come in, you push them out on the way up. Okay, and over time you will build that connection between your brain and your external rotators that control that knee position, and you will just insist that they go back out, and then you won't have to think about it anymore. And looking down lets you see that. So that's another reason I want you to look down, aside from the head position, and cranking on your neck. So looking down, the hip drive here is good. You're keeping your back tight. Again, you've got an issue with your head position on the way up. Depth looks pretty solid. Now, it's going to be more challenging to get deep enough with your knees out, right? But that's the point, is you're going to get a better stretch reflex. But when your knees cave in, it's easier to go down lower. So you're going to have to still hit depth while keeping the knees out. And you may have to play with your stance a little bit. It's hard for me to make that judgment because of the camera distortion. So, but we can deal with that later. We'll just get everything right, and then we'll deal with moving your stance just fixes the issue automatically. So don't even worry about that. But head position on the way up, right? You can still see your back angle is here and your head is like this. Okay, so I want this. So you need to be, again, keep your eyes down between your toes and you'll solve that problem. Back extension looks good now, right? Because you set it before you started the rep and you're doing a pretty good job of maintaining it. So your back isn't rounding, which is good. You do have a good pop out of the bottom, which is nice. And you're definitely leading with your butt. You're hanging onto that back angle. So like, overall, you're killing it. Like these are good. The errors that you have are kind of easy fixes. You just have to remember to do them. Looking down is the easiest fix. Just keep your damn head down. Pretend you've got a golf ball a tennis ball under your chin and don't drop it, right? Move your eye gaze down to between your toes. That'll help keep your head down. Keep it down the whole time. Don't ever let it lift. You're setting your back perfectly. And then the hard part is the one where you have to keep your knees out real hard at the bottom. So I don't know if I assigned you pause squats. I may have. But if I haven't, this would be I'm sure I have by this point because I think I've seen you squat a couple times. But just a reminder, pause squats with the empty bar. So for you, I just showed those earlier. I'll show them again. On my website, hornstrength.com/videos, you're going to take this down to the bottom and you're going to pause down there for 3 seconds, right? So empty bar, maybe first set with weight, bring it down, pause at the bottom for 3 seconds, and you're checking 3 things. For you, it might be 4 things. Am I balanced over the midfoot, right? Is my weight perfectly balanced right over the midfoot? Or am I on my toes? Or is my weight back on my heels? That's part 1. If you are on your toes, shift back onto your heels and pause and then come back up. If you're on your heels, shift forward a little bit, feel balance, and then come back up. The second question is, are my knees out as hard as they can be? Or did they cave in, right? So balance on the foot, knees out. If you're at the bottom, pausing for 3 seconds, and you can push your knees out harder, you didn't shove them out hard enough, or you let them cave in. So you push them out, you feel it, and then you come back up. And the third thing you're asking yourself in that 3-second pause is my upper back arched and tight? Am I looking down where I'm supposed to? I'm actually looking right where I told you to look, right? Or did I lift my head up like this, right? So my back and head look like that. Okay, if you notice when you get to the bottom in that 3-second pause that your head's cocked back like this, fix it, feel it, and then come back up. And then from there, you go down and you try again, and you try and do a rep where you don't have to make any adjustments, where you just go down, pause, and come back up. So that you can sit there for 3 seconds in the perfect bottom position and not have to tweak any adjustments. And that will teach you, this is what the bottom feels like for me to be balanced and to have all those things correct. Okay? Every workout you should be doing, every time you squat, you should be doing these. At least 1, maybe 2 sets with the empty bar, and then maybe 1 set with like your first warm up. And you can pause like 4 of them on your first set with weight. And then on the last one, go into the normal speed, right? And just drill that bottom position so that you know exactly what it feels like to be perfectly balanced with the knees out and the head down and the chest up at the bottom. That's your home base. And that's all you got to do. That's what you're looking for. As long as you feel that correctness, you know you did the rep right. Okay? So integrate those into your training session. If you're going to post another video next week, like I had Dick do in the previous form check, you can post whatever working set you want me to look at. But I also want to see a video of you doing pause squats with like a little bit of weight. Just a set of 5 perfect pause squats, because we can compare what happens in the pause squat to what you're doing in your real squats, and I'll show you the difference, okay? So nice work. Let's keep going. And thank you very much for submitting. We're getting there. I'm optimistic. All right, guys, I think we did it. Just a little over an hour this week. Thank you so much for all your submissions and for being a part of the Reddit community. And I hope this is useful. I certainly, like I say, I always enjoyed doing this. And I will see you guys next week. Keep an eye out for the new ebook. Radically Simple Muscle should be out Sunday, assuming that all the technical stuff works out without a hitch, which is rare, but I think I can get it done. So, all right, guys, thank you again. See you soon.